This presentation is on resting, local, and action potentials. My name is Emily Wonder, and thank you for watching my presentation.
A resting potential is defined as a stable voltage across the plasma membrane of an unstimulated nerve or muscle cell. Due to unequal distribution of electrolytes in the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid, it's polarized. Going into detail with that, so here is the sodium channel. This pump here is pumping positive sodium ions into the cell in the intracellular fluid, and they're concentrated. You can also see that there are cellular proteins in here with a negative charge. They're also known as anions, and they cannot escape the cell. Positive potassium ions being pumped to the extracellular fluid are concentrated. The end result here is that the inside of the cell is negatively charged and the resting membrane is measured at about negative 70 millivolts. This is an illustration of local potential. So what's going on here is that the stimulation of the dendrites and the soma cause a local disturbance in the membrane potential. The sodium channel then opens up as a response to the stimulus, and sodium enters the ICF, the intracellular fluid. Because there's an increase in cations, it is depolarized. Depolarized means any shift in the membrane in a positive direction. The opening of the sodium gates is so strong, and also the diffusion of sodium ions will cause the neighboring sodium gates to open as well. Local potentials have three specific characteristics that differentiate them from other potentials. They are graded. That means that they vary in magnitude, which is dependent on the stimulus's strength. They are detrimental, so they become weaker as the impulse travels further from the point of origin. They are reversible, meaning that when the stimulus stops, the cell reverts back.
Action potential is described as a rapid voltage change in which a plasma membrane briefly reverses electrical polarity, has a self-propagating effect that produces a traveling wave of excitation in nerve and muscle cells. Action potentials have the following attributes which set them apart from local potential previously mentioned. It follows the all or none law. This means if the local potential is strong enough when it reaches the HILLOCK, it triggers an action potential. And when that does happen, at full strength, essentially it either occurs at full strength or it won't occur at all. Finally, as well, they are non-decremental, meaning despite distance, they maintain their full strength down the complete length of the axon, as well as they are irreversible. This means once they start, they are unstoppable.
Think back to my previous slides and get a really good picture in your head of the channels and gates. So what's happening here is that when a local potential gets to the axon HILLOCK, it starts to depolarize its resting membrane potential. This resting membrane potential has to be strong enough to proceed and open the sodium gates. In this case it is. So the action potential has officially begun now as it reaches the threshold of negative 55 millivolts. Now that the threshold has been reached, rapidly the sodium gates in the membrane of the HILLOCK open up and the sodium ions diffuse into the intracellular fluid. This then puts the membrane potential through rapid depolarization. And the membrane rather quickly goes from negative 55, surpasses 0, and hits that 35 millivolt mark. Once it hits that magic number, it has peaked. The sodium gates then close and the potassium gates have now opened. The potassium ions that were in the intracellular fluid then diffuse out to the extracellular fluid. This reaction causes the membrane to rapidly repolarize. This is a shift of voltage back to negative values. Once we get back to negative 70 millivolts, the potassium gates now close. Since both gates are now closed, the sodium-potassium pumps go back to the locations they began at, and the membrane can recover and repeat the process.
Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.